Our first review of the day is going to be for the film Lisa Frankenstein. Lisa Frankenstein is a movie directed by Zelda Williams. Zelda Williams, this is her directorial debut.
Mhm.
And this is written by Diablo Cody. Diablo Cody, famous writer. Diablo Cody, she's done movies like written for movies like Young Adult, Juno, Tully, Jennifer's Body. She's been kind of, I feel like MIA for a minute now. I don't think she's written anything in a little while. So this is kind of like a return for her. And if you've seen stuff like Jennifer's Body, return to horror, like much of what Lisa
Mhm.
Frankenstein is. And I like Jennifer's Body. I think Jennifer's Body, that movie came out in 2009, I believe. Um,
Yeah.
and it developed a cult following, I would say, since
Yeah.
then. What's your opinion on Jennifer's Body?
I felt Jennifer's Body was one of those movies where there are pieces in it that really, really work. And I think the cast was fairly strong, but it also came out in 2009. And a lot of the stuff that maybe could have worked were downplayed a bit to kind of, fit a bit more in the time frame of 2009. But when it works, it's actually pretty fun and interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how I would describe it. Pretty fun. You get some good cast in here. Megan Fox is really good as the villain in this. I don't think I've seen Megan Fox be this good in anything else since
Mhm.
Jennifer's Body. I don't think. But yeah, it really worked there. Mandy Seyfried. Yeah, this was a good cast here. Like I said, developed a little bit of a cult following here over the years since this movie's came out. Since the time there. And can the same thing be said for Lisa Frankenstein? Well, this movie, some
Mm.
people are saying that it might develop a cult following maybe in the years to come. So what is this movie about? So you have this girl by the name of Lisa, who's played by Catherine Newton. Catherine Newton, who you just saw in Ant-Man 3. She was in Dust's favorite movie, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania there.
Oh.
She was in that. She was also in the movie Freaky, which was another horror movie. That was the one with Vince Vaughn. She was also in Detective Pikachu there.
Mm.
Yeah, so you have this girl who's Lisa Swallows in this, and she's a girl that is a fan of the macabre type thing. She likes to go in graveyards and talk to dead people, and very much that kind of style. Very goth, I guess, is what you would say there. Very girl there. She likes to listen to very emotional music, The Cure, things like that. If you ever seen any Tim Burton movie ever, she's basically the Winona Ryder character
Yeah.
in those. She's Winona Ryder in like Edward Scissorhands or Beetlejuice or things like that. Which
Yeah.
this movie you can tell has a lot of very much influence from Tim Burton movies. I think it
Oh
wears
yeah,
that on
very
its
much so.
sleeve pretty
Also has
heavy.
some notes from like John Hughes movies, and a lot of it though reminded me of Heather's.
Heathers is a big one. I was gonna bring that up. Yeah, a movie that was inspired by Heathers, which seems like a lot of high school movies, especially movies where it deals with the main character. And this also starred Winona Ryder too, also by the way. Um, and yeah, when you deal with a lot of high school movies, especially a lot of like high school movies that revolve around women, girls, about them taking the offensive, like taking them against the real, mean people there. It seems like a lot of really draw inspiration from Heathers, which was a lot of main things there. But if you've never seen Heathers, great movie. I recommend people checking it out if you never checked it out.
It's definitely earned its cult classic.
Yeah, a lot of modern high school movies still draw from Heathers, like the movie that we are talking about right now, and Lisa Frankenstein. Like I said, so you have this girl, goth girl, fan of the macabre, really out there with things. A lot of that is due to a tragedy she faced early on in her life. But like I said, she talks to, goes to this graveyard, talks to one particular uh, uh, what am I trying to say? One particular bust there of this
Mhm.
dead person, and kind of starts has feelings towards them, and then all of a sudden this body comes to life, and, struck by lightning, and then boom. No real other explanation in that. It's just like a thunderstorm, and then boom,
Yeah.
lightning hits it, the grave, and then boom, the body rises, and then she has to deal with that's the Frankenstein creature in this. And then also Lisa Frankenstein is a play on Lisa Frank, which was apparently a thing back in the day, because this movie takes place in 1989. Uh,
Mhm.
and that was kind of a big prominent thing. Lisa Frank was like a big thing that happened there. But yeah, so this film, so it has also that throwback vibe of it being in the 80s. You're gonna hear a lot of 80s music in this, a lot of 80s references there. But yeah, and it's kind of their quest to them together doing some murder, A lot of the Frankenstein type story. And it seems like nowadays we're getting a lot of Frankenstein movies. What is with that? Because like
I don't know, man.
there was Angry Black Girl and Her Monster. There's the new Frankenstein movie coming with Guillermo del Toro. Uh,
Yeah.
Everybody's doing Frankenstein stuff now. I don't know what's with that.
Every so often there goes a phase. In the early to mid 2000s, it was vampires. Twilight's early 2000s, it was zombies. In the 90s, like 80s, it was kind of werewolves and vampires. So kind of go back and forth. Zombie, spaceship, werewolf. You just kind of go back and forth of what these things. And I guess Frankenstein is on the table right now.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess it's time. And the person playing the Frankenstein monster is Cole Sprouse, who Cole Sprouse doesn't talk much through the movie. The majority of the movie doesn't have
Yeah.
any dialogue. Mostly just speaks in grunts and sounds and noises there. And his performance reminded me a lot of like what Vincent D'Onofrio did in Men in Black, the first Men in Black movie. Like the way he was kind of moving
Oh,
around, a lot of his physical acting, his physical performance there. And this was a great performance by Vincent D'Onofrio there. Also, it's kind of similar thing. Like he didn't really speak all that much. It was a lot of grunts, a lot of like his physical movements there, and that reminded me a lot of kind of what he did. And I think Cole Sprouse as the Frankenstein monster, even though he doesn't say much, really does a lot of acting through his physical body there. And I think that was very, very impressive. What did you think about the cast of this movie, and particularly the two leads that we follow here, Lisa and then Cole Sprouse's character?
Catherine Newton, who plays Lisa, I think she does a fair enough job. She was on a bigger series like Big Little Lies. She also was in the series. I think she was in Supernatural, if I recall.
Yeah, I think
So
wasn't she like I
yeah,
forgot what role she played, but she was in it. Yeah.
yeah. And she's also been in series like *Halt and Catch Fire* for Am Fitzy. So she's got experience there, and I think she portrays that kind of '80s quiche, kind of in her own head, kind of teenager. I think we've met at least one of them in our life where they're just kind of zoning on their own thing in life, and they just kind of they're in their own world and they're going to do their own thing, and you just hope it doesn't end up doing something really weird or crazy.
Mm,
But for her it's something really weird and crazy, like especially during the '80s and '90s, very much a goth phase for a lot of girls I knew. There's even a few I knew who were in that phase. And so kind of from some of the way they dressed to some of the way they acted, I was like, yeah, I'm reminded of that.
mm, yeah. And, rounding out the cast, you see, Carla Gugino is in this as well. You see her work on, Mike Flanagan's series there. She does a good job in this, and I think
Mhm.
with this movie, it's a PG-13 movie, but it very much pushes that PG-13 rating, I think, quite a
Yeah.
bit. Like, it goes right up to the edge of that PG-13 rating, and you'll see what I mean if you actually watch the movie. Because, yeah, it pushes up there with it in terms of the sex, in terms of the violence in this. It really kind of pushes that rating pretty hard there. But yeah, you got Carla Gugino in this, who she feels like she knows what she's doing in the movie like this, like the camp of it, the '80s type of feel of it. She knows what she's doing. You also have her stepsister in this, Lisa Sabario, who plays Taffy there. Lisa there. I haven't seen her before, but she does a fun role in this. It's kind of like it's a step situation there. Carla Gugino's the stepmother. She's the wicked stepmother. She's
Mhm.
the her sister there. And, you think that her character's gonna go one way, but she kinda goes a different way just in her personality. I kinda like what they did there with her. And you also have the dad in this who, speaking about tons of '80s stuff, you have the dad who was also Mike's dad in Stranger Things, and he's playing the same role. It's almost like he just came off of the set of Stranger Things, even with the same clothes,
Yeah.
and just walked onto the set of this movie.
Mr.
Um
Oral Redenbacher over there just chilling out, not doing much.
Yeah, and that's, Joe Crest there, who's the, father of Lisa, and then he married a new, woman there, called Georgino, and yeah, I mean, basically, it's the same role, basically. It's like, "Hey, we need a dad who's not very attentive, who just kinda sits on the couch, and just" yeah, I mean, he's so oblivious to everything going on around him, like, we gotta have a perfect guy like that, and it's like you found him in the dad from Stranger Things there, and it got him to do
Hey,
it.
the guy's getting work.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's gonna be his maybe that should just be his thing, just like the dad in, 80s movies who is so oblivious to everything around him that it's like, okay, you can buy why these kids are getting away with the things that they're getting away with, so you can just, like, totally buy that. So, with this movie being the directorial debut of Zelda Williams, like I said, you can definitely tell the influence that, is there. We mentioned the Tim Burton influence, stuff like Edward Scissorhands, Beetlejuice. I think you feel that, especially with the character of Catherine Newton. And especially with the kind of dynamic between her and the Frankenstein creature, very much like the same kind of dynamic between Winona Ryder's character and the Edward Scissorhands character, who's played by Johnny Depp. There,
Hmm.
you very much get that. You also get the other kind of element, the high school element there of Heather's, that kind of comedic, darkly kind of humor there. You get that very much with Heather's as well. In some ways, I think the influences can be, in some ways, good, and then in some ways, kind of to its detriment. What's your kind of opinion
Uh Diablo Cody is kind of one of those writers where it's always been hit and miss for me. For sometimes she might have a Juno or even a Jennifer's Body, and then she'll have something that that won't turn out too well. Like uh, she's just one of those hit and miss kind of characters. But then sometimes she'll come out with a Tully, and she does often wear her influences on her sleeve. And I think this is one of those times that this might have bitten her a bit on the butt because yeah, I see all these references. I've seen these kind of movies, or at least I'm aware of them, and it never quite goes beyond that. Like it never really does much more. It's kind of what if you've seen Heathers, you kind of know where they're gonna go. If you've seen this, you kind of know the style in which it's kind of gonna go. It's very in a weird way safe. In a weird way, it's kind of hard for me to. I don't know. That it's just kind of felt. It felt safe. I felt like I knew where it was gonna go. I knew kind of where it was gonna take me, even with the small twists and turns. I was like, okay, but it never becomes more than the sum of its parts.
there? Okay, interesting. Yeah, I mean, I kinda like I said, it is to its detriment at some points there, in a lot of things. I mean, definitely you have the influences that you see. I think with the directorial debut of Zelda Williams, also, like, her style and the way she kinda does things. I think there's promise here and then in
Hmm.
terms of, like, her playing around with the horror genre, and I think, um, with Diablo, she just writes the script, so you have to have a director who knows how to really translate those scripts to the screen, via from a director's point of view, and I think that, I think for the most part, she kinda does that very well,
Hmm.
doing that, and I do like the performances here, and I think they're selling it really well, and they're doing a good job as opposed to, like, something like we just recently saw an '80s movie, Totally Killer, like something like that. I think
Oh
this does
yeah.
a better job of being in the era that it's in. Maybe it is because this movie is so absurd and it's kind of premise. I mean, Totally Killer was too, and that was like time travel, but I think this does a better job playing within its era, doing a lot of things. Like you said, the mixing the John Hughes stuff as well, the romance, stuff with the darkly horror stuff there, the humor stuff that comes in there. That I think that works,
Hmm.
and that kind of fits. It just does it mesh all the does it come together really well all the time? No, I don't think it does.
Yeah.
But I still did have a good time with it. I think I think I did get some good laughs out of it.
Yeah.
Um,
There's clearly a level of affection for the time and era, and there's clearly a lot of fun that there's had between the characters and some of their dialogue, and you can feel this definitely does feel like a first attempt or a first uh maybe second or third draft at something. You can see where it could work, but like Frankenstein itself, no matter how many kind of body parts you kind of put to it, it doesn't quite congeal together. It just feels like different parts that are kind of just stitched together, and it sometimes it does work, and other times it just doesn't quite land there.
mm, okay. Interesting. Yeah. So, what would be your final thoughts and ratings for Lisa Frankenstein there?
Hmm. This is kind of hard because this really does feel like a genre specific. If you kind of have to really know what you're going to get into with this, and it's very stylized and it's very specific on what it's going for. I did enjoy this more than Totally Killer. I will say that. Uh, totally killer kept pulling me out of the movie. With this, there were moments here and there, but I did at least have enjoyed myself somewhat. Uh, I'm gonna give this a solid stream it. I don't think it's necessarily needed to go see the theaters, but I think if you saw it on a stream it, I think you'd be fine with it.
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of agree with that. I would also give it a solid stream it, for the reasons kind of we all mentioned here. It feels like kind of like baby's first Tim Burton movie. You know, you're
Mm,
just kind of trying it out. Let's see what we're gonna go with. And like I said, Zelda Williams looks like, yeah, I mean, she's got some promise and some things here, in the horror genre of kind of what she could do. I do enjoy Catherine Newton the way she's kind of playing this role, especially when you see her kind of become more like Winona Ryder and Heather's, where you see kind of that transformation there. I do enjoy that. I think she does a great job at that. The scenes between her and Cole Sprouse,
mm,
are good, and I think are funny there. And where this kind of movie goes, like I said, you definitely can I think tell where it's gonna kind of go there. I think a little bit with a story like this, but I think the journey there is not bad, and I would like to see more from her. Yeah, and yeah, I think the biggest thing is like, yeah, the influences are definitely heavy on this movie. You can feel it, and it doesn't, like I said, do more other than to just, I think, be those influences and just kind of wear those influences
mm.
on its sleeve, even though it is a decent film. I think.
Right.
Yeah, so I just would give it kind of to me a solid stream it for me there. Yeah, so 2 streamings for, Lisa Frankenstein there. Was it pretty much what you expected watching the trailer?
Yeah, more or less, honestly. It did surprise me in a few other other nods here and there. I was actually expecting far worse, if I'm gonna be honest. And the fact that it turned out to be, oh, it's all right. That actually that made me feel better seeing it. Because I was kind of quietly hopeful that it might be something pretty decent because it's at least an interesting idea. And I've seen the worst interpretations of a Frankenstein movie. Yeah, we talked about our worst ofs last not too long ago, and what was that? I barely remember that one. That one, the one in the hood,
Angry Black Girl on Monster.
yeah, Black Girl and a Monster. You could go that route where it's really, really like has some interesting ideas, but kind of fumbles it. With this, at least, it was competently done for the most part, and it just couldn't go beyond the references it was trying to reference.
Mm,
It's clearly an imitation. They say imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. Clearly the Zelda as the director likes that time of a era and was paying homage to it, but just never could quite go beyond that.
yeah. Yeah, like I said, I mean, the Frankenstein stock is high. Angry Black Girl and Monster, Poor Things. The new movie coming out with Guillermo del Toro, he's gonna do
Mhm.
a Frankenstein movie. The Frankenstein stock is high right now, I
It
guess.
is. I'd get in now and sell in the next year or two.
Yeah. Yeah, so there you go. And this movie too, so yeah, Lisa Frankenstein. So yeah, 2 streamers for it. Yeah. I will say it's better than what I thought it was gonna be, a little bit
Yeah,
better.
I agree. It was better than I thought it was going to be too.
All right.